So welcome to the Village Board work session. Today is Monday, September 13. We have work session 7 to 8 and then a regular session that begins at 8 p.m. As I mentioned the last time, we're trying out this gizmo, the owl, which we hope is a means to efficiently and comparatively inexpensively deliver both real-time broadcast of work sessions via Zoom, but also thereafter a videotape that's at least watchable, a record of what goes on. So we're keeping an eye on how that goes. You'll let us know what your views are as it develops. First item on our agenda is considering changing the October 11 work session and board meeting to October 14th. So the issue there was October 11th is Columbus Day observed.
Right. And the 14th is that Thursday.
Right, you're trying to stay away from court when they need to use the room.
Right. So we have court Tuesdays, planning, we're ZBA on Wednesday.
Just a coincidence.
So there's a Wawa dinner that night. I am not certain, I mean, I don't have to go. I generally try to go. I'm not certain if it's going to happen that night anyway, but it's not perfect for me, but by the same token, it's the only other night we have this that week.
That week, yeah. What day we're talking about? I know what
Thursday,
14.
October 14.
I teach.
What's anybody else's circumstance?
That night works for me.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, Thursday, October 14 it is.
Okay.
That works out pretty well.
So
Thank
thank
you,
you,
Alyssa.
clarity, work session at 7 p.m., meeting at 8 p.m. right here.
Too bad, because I want to. Let's just. It's gonna come in.
It is, yeah. Yeah.
What was the last thing you said?
Just 7 p.m. work session, 8 p.m. regular meeting
Oh,
on
same
the
as
14th.
usual.
So it'll be the same schedule, just on Thursday.
Okay.
All right.
Next item on our agenda was a discussion about a request to change 15-minute time limited parking spaces on the corner of Manville and Washington to 30 minutes. There are two spaces that are right in front of the old King's Crown Liquor, now Route to Rise.
Mhm.
And at the time, or sometime not long after the Burns opening, King's Crown asked us to provide short-term parking spaces of a sort that already existed in front of Pleasantwood Pizza on Wheeler. Their problem being folks
You want
were,
me to go and take this downstairs so you can watch? You sure? Okay.
That was Jackie's on.
okay,
Oh,
we're parking in front of King's Crown for visiting a movie and creating a very difficult situation for his in and out customers. So we created those two 15-minute spaces. Now Route to Rise is there and they're finding 15 minutes is less beneficial to them and that 30 minutes would be better. And they have asked us to agree to make that change.
that's fine to me.
Good, works for me.
Fine to me. That controversial matter is unanimously agreed upon.
And just to know, we have a resolution on tonight's meeting agenda to schedule the public hearing. We have to amend the code to allow to change 15 minutes to half an hour. So that's setting a public hearing, holding a public hearing, passing a local law. Also, that corridor right there, that sidewalk as part of the Manville Road project gets bumped out. So we're actually left with, I think, overall on that side of the road, 2 less parking spaces. So in the long run, that'll impact them too. But for now, we can provide this relief.
Okay.
All right.
The business seems to be doing really well too, so that's great.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of positive comments. Okay, so I'm glad to try to help. All right, so you'll start the wheels running on that front.
That's correct.
Okay, next item was a discussion regarding future meeting formats in response to New York State legislation allowing virtual meetings. So the new governor agreed to a change that would allow us to go back to Zoom meetings if we were so inclined.
That's right.
I think that the zoning board has decided to do that.
And the planning commission.
And the planning commission. It also creates the opportunity for any of us who are either not wanting to be here or are elsewhere because of other obligations to participate in a meeting remotely and to vote. That isn't necessarily guaranteed past January, although there is legislation floating around that wasn't acted on. And won't likely be acted on until next legislative year to allow that permanently. But as of the moment, we can meet by Zoom. We can meet in person with a Zoom backup. What's everybody think?
I mean, I'm open to what everybody thinks, but I will say for myself, it's definitely better in person because of just the distractions that are involved in trying to participate in a meeting with the various interruptions that are involved with my kids and my dog and being around. But if everybody feels it would be easier on Zoom, then I'm open to that.
For me, I think that depending on what's on the agenda, I think it could be, discussed if we need to in person or not. I do think that at least for people coming, I haven't really seen that many people come in person yet. It seems like everyone seems very comfortable with and with participating from Zoom world. So on our end, it's just us talking personally. So I do see a bit of a benefit of having that. And I do definitely think if someone's away or things like that, I think that definitely helps. I enjoy it in person because I do get to see, my fellow board members. But that's more of, I think, just a personal preference. Is I like being around people, but do I think it's necessary to have them in person? I don't. But I'm either way. I'm different to it.
So it's sort of like seeing faces better than masks, so I'm all for whatever format is maskless, which I think in this case would be Zoom.
I subscribe to that.
Okay, we're certainly in the room. I think we need to be masked. Is there any disagreement with that?
I totally agree.
What's your take, Michael?
On masks or on Zoom?
All of the above.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would agree with everything Nicole said. I find the Zoom environment to have been an important bridge through a dark time, and I understand we're still in the dark time to some degree, but I personally do not find that home environment conducive to good discussion. So I guess for me, there are two issues. One is how does the board work well together? And the second is how does Zoom or not affect the democratic process of constituents? I don't think they're exactly the same questions.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like the board works well together in either context, as far as I can tell. But maybe better here, especially when it's a 3-hour or 3-hour plus experience.
Mhm.
That on the screen is very, very difficult, I find.
Yeah, I think it's easier to have a conversation in person, discussion.
Yeah, I don't have a problem either way, so, but.
Well,
lost
so
here.
yeah, I mean, I think it's easier and more productive to be together in the room. That means masks. I am inclined to think that a hybrid approach with whoever wishes to be in the room here and whoever prefers to be via Zoom or remote, either because they are concerned about COVID or because they have some job life or family life mission that's kept them away. So I do think that the Zoom opportunity for people has been a good thing. Makes it easier for somebody to log in and to comment wherever they are. And we can keep that side by side with our normal video. That feels like a win. We're struggling a bit, but I think getting our arms around the owl gizmo as a means of feeding this out to Zoom easily and inexpensively. So, I mean, my take on it would be it's a work in progress, but for the month of September, let's try the hybrid approach with those of us who care to be here, and those of us who prefer to be here by Zoom, logging in that seems.
So we'll proceed as is with a Zoom link when we notice our meetings, and
If only Eric lived in Pleasantville, we could go to his house with the phone.
yeah,
So then,
I would be here no matter what.
so then we'll all individually be logged into Zoom if some of the board
So-
members are.
Well, so I think the
doing it
story
online.
would be the owl is the Zoom window into this room.
Mhm.
And everybody else who's elsewhere is coming through Zoom, and Alyssa, you can,
Everything can be pulled up.
it still can be
There.
pulled up on the screen,
Yep.
so.
Oh, I see. So we would see it there and we would hear it. via the
Yeah,
owl.
now we can also individually log into Zoom, but just mute out both video and audio, and then, I mean, the other nice thing about Zoom is it makes it very convenient to share a screen if there's a drawing to show or something like that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right, so that's a plan at least for September, and let's see how it goes.
All right.
One procedural question. You used the word preference, I think. What do we prefer to do?
Yes,
Is there a timeline to notify? I mean, I'm thinking of a situation where at 6 PM, we all prefer to stay home on the same day, you know, without, I don't know, is that just fine?
Eric's here, right?
Is that
Somebody's
just
here to
fine?
run.
Yeah.
Or is
Yeah.
it-
I'm planning to be here, so I think the deadline for anybody else is 5 or 7.
Or 3 after
Yeah.
7. That's fine.
Right.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, that would have been an issue pre this piece of legislation, but we're okay. Provides a lot of leeway.
And it's through January, this
Yes,
legislation?
December 31st.
Right, it remains unclear what the future of that is, but it doesn't seem like there's going to be any action to change that until next legislative session.
And then, Mr. Mayor, had you heard, I think what Ossining, their village and town board decided to go 100% virtual, but I haven't heard anything definitively from any other
Yeah,
municipality.
I know that Ossining decided to go 100% virtual. I have not heard what
Okay.
others are doing.
Okay.
Tarrytown was experimenting with the owl, right?
That's right, yeah.
They were going to do owl Zoom for work session, regular televised for, but again, the story's changed, so.
Yep.
I mean, we're gonna have to see how it goes, as I will report when we get to the regular meeting. You know, the COVID numbers were kind of scary in August. They appear to have moderated somewhat. As I'll report, we've got, I think, 11 positive so far this month.
How many active cases?
17 active cases.
That's much better. than
So it's dropped a bit from where it was. And again, you know, the raw numbers are not all that remarkable, but the trend was, certainly the trend in August was pretty lousy. We are now, as of last week, over 800 cases cumulative. I'm sure that understates the real number. There's lots of people had it and were tested, whatever, but we're now in a circumstance where definitively well more than 10% of the population is tested positive. So,
What's the statistic right now on vaccination rate? here?
I didn't look at that. Have you looked at anybody else?
I would track it pretty closely. It's definitely plateaued for at least a month
Okay,
in the mid 70s
Okay.
for our area. So we're still not, we're not catching up with Ardsley and some other places that really
Yeah.
knocked it out of the park, but
'cause it seemed like in some parts of the country vaccination rates were going up, but I imagine that's where they're dealing with higher numbers.
sure, yeah. I mean, places that were coming from 30 up to 40 or 50, but we
Right,
were
right,
already
right.
at below
Already at
70s.
70, so yeah.
So we will see, schools obviously back in session. That's gonna, I think, inevitably create some positives in quarantining on a kind of a constant basis. Hopefully at a manageable level.
Although asymptomatic positives for vaccinated high schoolers, they don't have to isolate.
Yeah, well, and I mean, Shane can comment on this, but the school is undertaking with the health department this testing protocols.
Right.
That is going to give us some real data about what's going on.
But it's voluntary, so not everybody has to.
And is there a high degree of cooperation, or is that not yet?
Today the forms were sent out, so it's a little too early to say.
Mhm. So in a dream world, 100% of kids' families would agree to participate, and 20% of the kids would be tested on a random basis. So that would give everybody some real data about what's going on in the village of Pleasantville.
Are you testing 20% of the total population in the schools or 20% of the people who agree to do it?
20% of the people who agree to do it.
Okay.
Because you don't have the option of doing otherwise.
Yeah.
At any rate,
We're, just for the numbers, we're at 76.8 for one dose and 71.6 for two doses in the zip code of 10570. They do it only by zip code on.
okay, so that's a plan about our future meeting format, at least for September, and we can tweak that as we go. Candy crawl, the Vinjamori candy crawl.
Yes, sir. Shane and Nicole and I can't remember, Paul, are you involved
Yeah.
here? Paul, and two of your fellow board members, I think from the
Jill, potentially, and
yeah, Jill. So all last year, we took 3 routes through the village and the school district. We covered every single street in both. And we had 7,000 pieces of candy donated to us, and we gave out every piece of candy except for about 5 that my kids ate in our car. And we're going to do it again this year. And I'm happy to announce that the Pleasantville Fire Department is going to give us a couple of trucks to lead us. I'm still trying to get back in touch with PDAC, so if anybody has a contact there, because they were kind enough to give us an ambulance last year as well.
For sugar yippies? Sorry? For the sugar yippies?
Yeah, for the sugar. I think they just love being in front. But it was like, so it was exciting to have the big trucks, for the kids.
Well, and it creates a real stir.
Yeah, and they do obviously the fire department does it again for Santa later. So it's a really nice, this will be a nice preview for that. We're going to do the same time that we did last year, which I'm not going to say aloud because I'm afraid I'll get it wrong in my head, but I'll post it. And for 2 hours, that's about how long it took us to do those 3 routes. And we're letting everybody know well in advance. We'll get social media up at the beginning of October so people can plan for it. I'd love to eventually do an extension, like do some kind of costume contest or decorating Halloween doors or something, obviously there are some amazing decorations of the yards themselves and we don't want to get in the way of that, but it'd be fun if we could do something else. But for this year, since the logistics of everything have been so difficult, we'll be happy just to do the crawl again.
Yeah, so that's great. As of the moment, we're going to do the ragamuffin parade, right? So what day are you going to do this?
Well, so the crawl will be on Sunday, on actual Halloween day,
Okay.
but earlier in the day. What time do they call?
Oh, yeah, okay, I put it on the agenda as the 30th, but.
So the ragamuffin parade is in the later
Yeah,
morning.
it's 1 to I think it's going to be 1 to 3, but on Sunday on Halloween.
Okay.
So it shouldn't.
So
It shouldn't-
ragamuffin parade's on the 30th, right?
Yeah, before I started
Yes.
asking people, I called Eric and we looked at the calendar and there was really nothing on the schedule in particular for that Sunday.
Is it too old for the ragamuffin
I
parade?
know, it's sad. We only have 1 now. Let's be honest.
So I think the bottom line with that is that there's a period when they're too old, and then there's a period when they're back in eligibility again.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it depends on the kid, but not necessarily permanent, especially if you have a kid, as I think you do, at least one with a sort of sense of art.
Well, they both got that, but I've got one that likes to dress up, so that might
Yeah.
also help.
David, you want the candy drop-off box as we had it
Yeah,
last
we can
year?
do the same thing. That should work very well.
How did you gauge your distribution of candy so as not to run out?
We guessed, and we were fortunate that we were running out right as we were finishing. I think we could use like another 1,000 pieces of candy or so.
I had a bunch left over.
Oh, you did?
so,
We didn't
yeah,
have 0.
And there were some people actually who donated on the way.
Right, we
Yeah.
needed that.
that should help. Without that,
We
I would
posted
run out.
it,
Yeah.
we posted it on the page that people were following, and we said, we don't have any extra bags. So some of our last houses gave us extra bag, and then we went to get, because then we started getting some that were missed, either because the kids didn't come out or didn't hear. So we covered a couple of different neighborhoods that missed. So
Yeah,
it would be
Courtney
left out.
Davis Walker helped us last year. It was really great community effort. It was lots of fun.
Well, thank you for doing this. It's a great new tradition.
And Halloween, fingers crossed, should be a little more normal this year, right?
Oh, right. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, there was certainly an atmosphere of some fear
Yeah,
last year with homeowners and trick or treating.
It is perhaps one of the few occasions when it's fun to wear a mask.
Indeed.
We'll have to get some good masks this year if we're still wearing these kinds of masks. We'll have to really dress them up. for
I was at the
Halloween.
farm market a few months ago, and one of the volunteers was about to go and speak to a guy who appeared not to have a mask on. And when she got close, she realized he was wearing a mask with an image of his face,
Uh-huh.
of a face, and nose and a mouth. And she said, "Oh, sorry." He said, "Believe me, it'd be more scary if I didn't have the mask." All right. Outdoor business permits, chapter A19. Eric set this one up.
Okay, so,
The unanswerable questions.
that's right.
Well,
So
they were
last year, if you, some of you recall, we passed a local ordinance to essentially allow for outdoor dining. So it did so in two ways. Number one, it allowed establishments to operate on our property in our right of way. So we see that with the barriers set up for Dolphin South and Soul Brewing, and then Vela Kitchen on Washington. What it also did is suspended site plan violations. So those restaurants that operate on private property could put outdoor seating in their parking lot or in the parking lot of a little shopping center. So we see that in two places, DeSoros and Lefteros. DeSoros operates in their parking lot, and Lefteros is taking up a couple spaces in that little shopping center.
Okay.
So this is set to expire at the end of October, October 31st, and we did that to allow for the businesses to get through the outdoor season.
Yeah.
So the question becomes, do we let that expire? Do we want to renew it? Or do we want to allow some of it to happen? For instance, the barriers out on Wheeler have gotten clipped a couple times by cars. It's a little bit difficult to plow around. And we know we've gotten some complaints about it eating up parking and, when is that parking coming back type situation. So, we are within our right to allow folks to operate in violation of their site plan, but win back our right of way and take the barriers out. We don't need an answer tonight. We can certainly discuss it, but we do have a looming deadline on this of October 31st.
So what's the opinion of the businesses that are using it, and then the businesses that I know, I think with Solar and Dolphin South, aren't they using some space from businesses near them?
They're not at the moment.
No, they're not.
There was briefly that going on, but not at the moment.
Okay.
I have not, I know Dolphin South can take it or leave it.
Okay.
It's not part of their core business model.
Right.
I haven't talked to Alan, but from all accounts, that area is utilized.
Yeah.
And Bella
Yeah.
does.
I mean, I would have a ringside seat, obviously, on Dolphin and Soul, and Dolphin isn't using it much, Soul is using it intensively.
Yeah, oh, sorry,
Go ahead.
the mask. I'm all for extending it. I mean, I don't know, I sort of lean in the direction of I would make it permanent if, one would have to think it through a little bit more, but I feel like that's one of the positive things that came out of the pandemic. I was in Brooklyn on Saturday, which has done this, extensively, and there's tons of outdoor seating.
Well, and it's
just-
more, they've got real stanchions, and you know, it's
Yeah.
impressive how they've done it.
I mean, it's so lively.
Yeah.
And I have just a little bit of that here. I feel like it's one of the things that has made our downtown a bit more vibrant.
Yeah, so,
That's-
I
that's
mean,
where I
one of the
feel
problems we have, and we had, of course, when we first did this, is that we were able to help Dolphin and Soul and Vela,
Mhm.
but essentially nobody else, just because of the physical circumstances.
Well, we are helping Fat Root and the Abbey with that right away, though.
Yeah.
So,
there's two others.
in the alley,
Yeah.
right.
And
That,
Pub Street already
that
has
falls
their
into a
own.
different category. We can provide a license agreement for that and always have, like in the old village, for example, Craft and Bistro and all that, they have a license agreement that tables outside.
I mean, there are bound to be limitations in some locations, of course, but I feel like where we can facilitate outdoor seating, it's a good thing to do. I mean, if you take Pub Street, so we have those two examples, and then.
Right, Pub Street
I'm
is able to
sorry.
do it entirely on their own
Wheeler.
property.
Yeah,
Right, so-
so it's starting to add up on Wheeler and, you know, if there are other businesses that have a viable option for outdoor dining, I think we should support them as well. Obviously, when that's not feasible, there's not much we can do about
I
that.
love the idea of businesses operating outdoors in general. And, you know, having eaten a couple of brunches in sub-freezing weather this last year, I know that that's possible to do. I'm wondering if as a practical matter, we should just open it to all businesses that have frontage, whether they're dining or not, allow them to resubmit plans for after October and then, you know, take what we get. Because for instance, if Vila is really not using, if Dolphin South is really not using it and they're indifferent, then getting the parking back, or alternatively, letting one of the you know, shops do outdoor display or something like that could be useful. Because, you know, merchandising is very valid too, and that could be a nice thing to be able to do.
Mhm.
So I've seen the same thing in Brooklyn and Manhattan. Amazingly, New York City is, I mean, unconcerned about a whole bunch of things that we were concerned about. Like on Third Avenue, there are people dining literally 3 feet from cars going 40 miles an hour, and all that's between them is, you know, a 2x4. It's amazing to me. You know, so we thought these kind of barriers, believing that safety had prevailed. Well, whatever. So the problem we have, I think, is that I can tell you just anecdotal evidence. I'm on Wheeler all day long. The delivery guys, FedEx, UPS, truck deliveries, etc., hate it. They say it's made their lives fantastically more difficult. And the result of that is that there have been a lot more backups on the street because a delivery truck is, you know, trying to work around all this, whatever. But everyone has, you know, kind of made it work, and certainly relative to the experience folks have in a place like Brooklyn or Manhattan, like, guys, you know, it's a pretty great deal. But you know, the set of circumstances, as is true in parking in general, people have a different set of expectations that affects their response to all of this. I do think that if, for example, we'd said, as an example, we would invite other places on Wheeler to do this, what would we do with places that are on the diagonal parking side? Eliminate allow diagonal parking.
I think we just have to look at whose interest and then see if we can, don't make any promises, just say, look, you know, for instance, if Dolphin South loses those spaces and a books, I don't think the bookstore is not next to it, but let's say that Vela, you know, decided for whatever reason they didn't want to do it over the winter, but the bookstore said, we'd like to put, you know, during the day, during the week, we'd like to put some book displays outside. That we can consider that.
I like the idea and concept. It's just a question of whose ox gets gored. Right? We're giving up parking. It has been comparatively easy to do when parking was in less demand, but I can tell you, Eric and Alyssa can report the same. There are points in the day now where Wheeler's worse than ever. I mean, just worse than ever. Seized up, honking, people pissed off, the whole 9 yards.
But I think part of that is
Right.
because people like what they see and. they
That's
experience it,
true. I
right?
mean,
And
it's
part of-
in the category of, problem that's much better to have than nobody there.
Yeah, and I think part of that is due to, the brewery, for instance, and the activity that they have done in there and all the great restaurants they have.
Yeah, well, the other piece of it is, correct me if I'm wrong, Eric, there is an expiration date on our right to allow anybody to serve alcohol on public land.
Yeah, well, right, that's still in play. What's interesting is for those that are operating in violation of their site plan on private property, they should no longer be serving alcohol outside.
Hmm.
Now,
Because
since
that special
it's a
listing of the
SLA
rules
license.
expired.
But on public property, if the property is continuous to the establishment, they still have the right to serve.
But even that is not a permanent right.
Right, yes, that's right, but
That
it's
is a
still,
COVID extension of people's rights.
that's right.
So,
So that's an interesting dynamic.
But if we're interested in that, if we think it's useful, we can lobby to get it made permanent.
there's a downside to it. I think part of, there are moments in time, speaking personally, when whoever feels a more alcohol fueled than I wish it did.
I feel about that about the entire world, but
What do you think?
I think from what I've seen, it hasn't been used as much other than those stores, those restaurants that have them.
Mhm.
Really depends on the day. On the weekends, I think when, people are out more, you see it more used, but obviously it's all depending on the weather. If we continue, it doesn't, I think at least if we were to extend it till really the winter season came in, I don't think it really makes an issue, but I do know that once the winter season comes in and we have to worry about the plowing, it makes it a lot more difficult. Plus, are there really going to be, again, people eating outside in the middle of the winter again? It was very different last year. So I don't see the necessity for it as much then. I guess we'll have to see, but hopefully.
What about in the spring?
See, I'm more inclined to have it be like that, when people can actually enjoy it and can bear it. It's not, and not needing to create more of a danger zone with what kind of heaters are getting, or all those things. It's just, so I'm all for it when the weather allows it. But wintertime, I think it's just there. And it's, like Peter said, if it makes it more difficult for deliveries, and it'll make it more difficult for DPW to perform their duties when it snows, all that, then, weighing out the positive and negative, I think it's something that's important. So I think it would really benefit. Are the restaurants really going to thrive on having maybe a few, of their guests, a few of their patrons eat outside?
it'd be really helpful to actually know what the restaurants think, maybe informally before we make any decisions.
Yeah.
Could do that.
Yeah.
We certainly should ask.
Yeah.
We're in the circumstance where now where essentially only 3 businesses are being favored in this way. It's easy to find out.
And,
I can tell you, as Eric already reported, there are many days Dalton doesn't even partake.
That's
Right.
so-
And Bella doesn't get that much business outside.
Right.
Unless it's like nice.
It's hard for them to manage that as well. If people are willing to be inside, it's easier for them to manage.
Right.
I can report, as you've all seen, that the outdoor tables at Post Street are very, very popular. But again, they're set up for it, and it's their property, it's not ours.
Right.
They own the drip line of that building, roof over.
I feel like the snow removal argument is pretty compelling. That
Yeah,
just the way those barriers are set up and how difficult it is already. So I guess
We get to drive the Bobcat more than.
Yeah.
So my thought on it,
I guess.
which is a kind of an amalgam of everything I've already said, was that we should extend it as we need to, because it expires in October, through the end of the Thanksgiving weekend. And then say the Monday after the Thanksgiving weekend, that's a big weekend for, lots of. The Monday after Thanksgiving weekend, we take back the barriers and return the street. That doesn't obviate the possibility of putting them back in the spring.
Right.
We can sort of see how that goes and see how it feels. My assumption is that would mean we've left them there for the prime benefit season for the places that have it. And, Seoul in particular, it's very busy on weekends. And given his product, it might be okay to be outside and be colder, right?
Sure.
But come winter, I've not had a lot of comment from people, other than one person called me and said, get rid of them, it's time. I think it remains important to realize it's a fragile time for these businesses. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's by no means clear what the future holds. Back up 3 or 4 months ago, we were feeling way more optimistic that life was really headed towards return to normal.
And I'm inclined to agree with you. I just want to make sure we check in with them before we.
Yeah, we certainly should. Right.
And we'll carry this forward to the next agenda. work session.
All right. Paul, how are we doing on Octoberfest?
So, we got about 10 businesses that are interested.
Mostly Wheeler or not necessarily?
Not necessarily Wheeler. On Wheeler, we got 2,
Just 2.
just 2 that have,
So, and who else?
and the fish market.
Oh,
So when we were, and I've been discussing this with Eric too, looking at, it's getting really close and what they're willing to do. A lot of the businesses that we're looking to come out are smaller businesses that also maybe sell different things through, like they're not selling food or alcohol or anything. There's just more little, almost like little shops that sell gifts or things like that. The only food place that wanted to set up a spot right now was Second Mouse. That place wanted to bring. So, and looking at the requirements, and it looks like if we are going to have food, we would be asking that business to provide a permit from the Department of Health, which looks like it's doable. And it says it only takes about 5 days to get one. And then the vendor specifically handles it all with the county, and the turnaround can be pretty quickly on that. But just in today, correct me if I'm wrong, Eric, we were looking at that the village attorneys have said that looking at treating this almost like Pleasantville Day, where the vendors would get an insurance to present to the village and all that stuff. So now that in some ways, just in talking to, I've been working with Evelyn as our village administrator for the Chamber of Commerce, and she's been talking to these businesses. That could be something that I think makes more people say, you know what, I'll just pass. It's already, from what we're seeing, and even if we marketed it, we really don't know how many people are really gonna come out. And so we, for the village, the chamber, we're going to, for anyone that needs that pass, we are going to reimburse them, because I think that the permit was $85 from the county. So there's only really one business right now that needed it. We said that we'll cover it, because we're trying to help them out. But, with this, some of the businesses may have insurance policies like that available. I don't know if they all do, and to have them get something like that, I think it's putting a little more burden on them right now. And I understand from the village's point of view. I've also been monitoring, comparing this to the Mount Pleasant Day that happened yesterday. I'm from my discussions with their Chamber of Commerce, any vendor that wasn't selling food or alcohol did not get, I don't think have to get any insurance policies or anything like that. So I think just on my end, looking at right now, we've got about 10 businesses, but most are smaller. If we were to put more burden on them, I think it'll be easier for them to say, you know what, it's not worth it. And so, and even on my end too. I mean, I'm trying to push it as much as I can. a lot of discussions about it, going back and forth. COVID obviously affected us. I think the feel of the event has changed a lot. It's been a lot, it's a lot more calmer than what we envisioned. So in some ways, I saw it as this could be almost like a soft opening to an event, like that Pleasantville could do this in the future. And I think a lot of people overall have enthusiasm about it, are excited about it, but it seems like more and more, my concern is that it's going to be an event where only a few vendors come, people come out, are disappointed, and it ends up being something that's not reflective of what we're trying to do. And it's not reflective good on the chamber or the village. The event I went to Mount Pleasant Day yesterday was pretty well done. They had a lot of businesses. Mount Pleasant obviously is really big. They have a lot of different businesses that could join and could participate. But that's also been an event I think has been planned for almost all summer. So
I mean, it's their equivalent of our.
Pleasantville, yeah. So it's a lot of different people were involved in it. This, we were trying to make it a little more, at this point, I guess, more calmer. It's just more like, hey, the street's gonna be closed, people can hang out. But, so I don't know, my take, I guess the question now is, based on I'd have to go back to those 10 businesses that were interested and say, hey, can you get us an insurance policy? That's something that we need to do, and see how many continue. I mean, but, if we lose any of those 10, that's already low. I was a bit disappointed that a lot of the businesses on Wheeler are more enthusiastic about, putting more stuff out, but.
And are the ones on Wheeler that didn't want to participate concerned that closing the street would be bad for their regular business? Is that an issue?
No, it was more like, no, it's
Okay.
it's not really something that I'd want to be a part of. Some of them, because it's Saturday and later in the afternoon, they're like, we would normally probably be closed, so it wasn't worth it. So I think that's, what I'm envisioning and what is actually how the event is turning out to be, keeps getting further and further. And so I almost don't want it to, I had, unfortunately, and I've been in the chamber as a vice president, I think, since 2009, and we've had some events in the past where we invested, we got, I remember in the winter, we did a winter sales day to try to get the businesses to get some more business for the holiday. We had an ice sculptor come out. We've done a bunch of different things, and it just, for some reason, it just hasn't been participated that well. And if anything, we've had more people say, this is it. And it's just a bad reflection. So my concern now is that it can turn out to be something like that. And that's definitely what I'm trying to get away from completely.
What about Soul? Wasn't it kind of their idea at the onset?
Well, they're still doing their event that day. He's all,
So
Alan's all set up.
He's gonna do something regardless.
right. He already has his event set up. He has music inside.
Okay, so it's just a question of whether
We
the
close the street
village
or not.
goes, okay.
And the businesses like Soul, because they're gonna be in their own area, they're not getting any special permit because they're using their own storefront. Same with, the seafood market, they're using their own store, so they don't need to get a special permit. But anyone else, I guess, we have a couple, other businesses that are actually selling things, so they would need to get those permits.
And they would be set up on Wheeler.
On Wheeler or something, correct.
That's village or county permit?
No, for anyone that's not selling food or alcohol, they just need to provide the village with an insurance policy.
Yeah.
Cover.
So the temporary food permit, that's Westchester County Department of Health.
And we have to do that to do for all the vendors, the music festival. for
That's right.
example. And
Yeah.
and
So
the
I-
county health department sends an inspector to the music festival who has on occasion told specific vendors that they can meet the rules and they have to change their operations.
Why is our policy for non-food vendors different from the town?
It's just, risk exposure and guidance. I mean, it had always been village's policy for Pleasantville Day. I talked to the insurance broker today. I mean, they feel comfortable if we didn't require it of, not vendors who are not selling food or alcohol. I mean, if they can easily get us proof of insurance, that's one thing, but to not require those,
It's
it's a mitigated risk.
It's mitigating risk. Obviously, the lawyers and the insurance companies will always say, get it from everybody.
But when they say you don't necessarily need to get it, that usually means you really don't need it.
Probably
Is there
that's
any
right.
point
I mean, I will
to-
say that we have, every year, we get sued. It's going on right now. By people or businesses that decide there's an opportunity.
Source. I guess my question is just for Paul, whether, because it sounded like you're sort of standing in the middle of traffic there, whether you want to like,
I have, it's been a very lengthy road.
He's waving his hands, he's
I can
screaming.
tell you that, it's been since July, I'm like, goodness.
so I guess I'm sort of asking like whether you want to ask the village to relax the rules, although trying to get insurance from anybody willing to provide it, but not requiring them if they're not serving food or beverages. Will that help you, or you want to pull the plug more or less to avoid a brand failure?
Right, so I think without a doubt, if we're gonna go forward, I would ask the board to not require for the non-food or, I guess, the food vendors. You're not selling any kind of food or anything. I think if we don't make that requirement, it only makes it easier. And then, when we have the application ready, that I can share with everyone by email. It's a very simple application, just has their information, and we modeled it after the Mount Pleasant day. So I think we can get that moving quickly. We can promote it through social media. The chamber is gonna make some flyers, things like that, so we can get it moved quickly. I think that gives us the best chance of keeping the group that's interested. And there was a lot of actually other businesses that, because we did a survey, and so there were a lot of other businesses that wrote, this is a great idea. Unfortunately, I'm not available to do it, but I think it's great that you guys are doing this, and this should be something that you guys do more. So the businesses want to do something, but I think it just takes some time for them to see it and see somewhat of a success.
So I'm reminded a couple of times in these conversations about places Tarrytown was doing for a while, they still are doing the first Friday, right? Where there was an event sort of like this every Friday, the first Friday of every month. And it came to be, so many people knew and was repeated, and businesses that participated had a chance to sort of iron out the kinks and find out ways to make it work better. And with sort of a celebratory air about the first Friday of the month. I don't know that they're still doing it.
They did this past weekend.
Did they?
Yeah, I'm not sure they're doing it as frequently, but
And I just wonder, whether in the end, the trouble with a one-off is participants are afraid it won't be good enough to warrant their effort. Visitors are not necessarily available, but might be interested on another date, just are unavailable. The idea of, sort of a first Friday thing or something on some regular schedule turns it into a little bit of a system, right? Does that make any sense to think of?
Like if we wanted to make this more of a normal thing,
Well, right, I mean, sort of what you're saying, correct me if I'm wrong, is
I would, yeah, I think
it's too hard to figure it out for a one-off, and too many people are afraid it won't be worth the trouble.
correct.
Kind of a proof of concept thing.
Right.
For Pleasantville.
Right.
But
Right.
if you're gonna put capital down and get all your catering operation out there, you want to know that you're gonna have a good experience. I had a question, Paul, that I didn't hear quite answered. First of all, I want to say thank you for all the work on this, and I totally empathize with the situation where you put a lot of time into an event and then you're not sure if it's going to happen in the end.
Yeah.
It's like sadly something that I'm feeling in my gut from my other job, but, which happens a lot. But so I empathize with that.
Right.
But my question is, without divulging these 10 businesses, is there any kind of synergy among them, or would for a visitor to the day, would it feel coherent? Or would it feel like there's a beer over here and a book display here, and I can buy jewelry over here, like. Does that
I
make
think
sense?
it's more like the latter right now.
Because that's my fear for
It's-
people showing up and feeling like, what am I even at? You know, whereas a first Friday thing is more like a food and wine night, you know, or like a food
Right,
festival.
yeah, I mean, right now, I mean, with how it is, it's kind of like that. And so
Yeah.
I think, you know, and I understand, you know, where we started and where we are now. Obviously, August definitely scared all of us, you know, with the numbers and so I think that definitely, that kind of took the air in our sails a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, you know, in the vision I had was a more populated event,
Yeah.
more geared to everyone. Now it became essentially a more of a later for adults kind of thing more. Right now, I mean, as we have it, we don't really have an attraction for kids in any way. We were thinking of getting a softy truck, but they operate on their own
Yeah.
kind of thing. So they, you know, that wouldn't be difficult to get, just so at least there's ice cream. We contacted other ice cream stores here in Pleasantville, and they didn't want to participate. So that's why at least we bring it from somewhere else. And regarding, you know, music, that's still obviously an option, but hard to reach out to somebody and say, hey, you're maybe available to this that we may or may not do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as difficult as it is, I mean, I myself right now, I'm having a tough time being really behind it just because of just how much time there is left.
Right.
The more I'm
What
getting,
else do
and-
we normally do Pleasantville Days?
May.
May.
So maybe you can do like something in the height of the summer.
I mean, that would make us, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I could, you know, at least now that, I wouldn't say that we've wasted time, because I think it's important to get this dialogue going, and I think there were a lot of points that were raised that I want to understand more how other places do it. And obviously, I can just compare it to the closest, but being on Pleasant Day yesterday, it kind of hit everything. There was things for kids, there was things for adults.
Yeah, seriously.
There was, I don't know how the permits work, but there was, I mean, people did have alcoholic drinks and walked up and down the street. I don't really know what happened, but
That's stretching a point.
I don't know what I'm saying. I don't understand. I've been to other places where they do, so I think I need to just understand more how it works.
But if you think about it, we have, so Pleasantville Day be in May, and then we're assuming we'll have a music festival next summer in July. So maybe a June festival could be a way to take on. I'm sure if we do Pleasantville Day, it'll be very successful because people really missed it. And then you could say, hey, a month later, we're coming back and we're now doing this other outdoor thing.
Yeah.
I have to say, one of the things I liked about the concept for Octoberfest was that it was not a kids-centered event, because I feel like so much of what we do is kids-centered. And
This is a white motif.
I know.
Trying to get away from the kid.
Not officially second her comment.
I mean, I think having an event where we don't have to have a fancy house and ice cream is nice.
I mean, I'm cool with that. I
We're
can
talking
roll with,
about at our houses now, right?
I can roll with that as well.
I mean, I think these kinds of, obviously Pleasantville Day, not Pleasant Day, you know, feel like a once a year affair. If you did this, you know, on Wheeler Avenue, it's food and drink that drives it,
Yeah,
right? Folks who are selling hard goods of some kind are hoping to catch the wave.
right.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, really,
It's
and perhaps the other,
It's the experience.
Yeah.
Maybe part of the conversation is there a version of this in which more of the restaurants on Wheeler Avenue would be interested in participating?
Yeah, if we could combine it with like, later the same night, Jacob Burns showing a movie in Memorial Plaza or something like that. You know, so we could start to demonstrate outdoor program.
Yeah, and I think Peter's right too, that it's food and drink, that the Terrytown event, at which children I believe are allowed, but not necessarily encouraged. No, I'm just kidding. is the kind of model for this sort of event.
Yes, there are several.
But I get that, like, if there isn't a lot of participation on the street, then it could be closing, that feels a little awkward.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know if there's another scenario in which more of the restaurants would want to participate.
So Paul, are you kind of edging in the direction of not doing it on October 2nd?
Well, I guess the first question to the board is, are we in agreement that we would be lax for the businesses that are not serving food? That they would not need to provide an insurance policy, or are we required?
Eric, you had the conversation with
Yeah.
Carrier.
I
And
would
what
feel,
would the impact of that be from the standpoint of precedent about Pleasantville Day
I
and
mean,
about the music festival?
so, and talking to our colleagues in Mount Pleasant, they require proof of insurance for those selling food, alcohol, or conducting some type of game and or rides. And so that probably covers the majority of our vendors at Pleasantville Day, not all of them, but in this scenario where you have, small businesses coming to set up a table, the insurance broker feels comfortable waiving that requirement.
Okay, so that
Okay.
helps. The other thing I wondered, not that has to be resolved now, but is there such a thing as sort of an owner supplied umbrella insurance that covers this for all these folks?
That's a good question. Can certainly dig into that.
I mean, we could pay whatever it is. In fact, it doesn't have to be resolved now, but I don't know if there is such a thing.
Yeah.
Falafel Taco said they would do it too.
They said they would do
They
it.
would, yeah.
Well,
Let's
that's
go for
good.
it.
So, Jacob Burns, I'll tell you the businesses right now that are interested. Jacob Burns said they put a table. There's a realty company, photographer, painting company.
A Pleasantville pay?
It's like painting, yeah. Oh, no, I'm sorry. They just said it's a great idea. But,
Not that they wanted to.
they
paint
just
the
said
town.
we won't participate maybe next year, but yeah, we had a few of those. That's a great idea, but you're okay. So I mean, I'll reach out to the ones that are interested and say, hey, do you still want to do it? And then hope for the best. And I guess I would get back to the village on it. I am concerned about it. It's not just the way we have it. It is kind of just dispersed a bunch of different businesses.
Right.
Just kind of putting tables out there, but it could work.
But
I mean,
there's stuff, yeah, no, that's not really contributing
Yeah.
much to the.
It sounds like it
Sure.
doesn't have enough of a hook.
Great.
All right. Enough said. Now, Eric, schedule wise, the idea of a Zoom town hall regarding the marijuana dispensary question. We had looked at a couple of dates, and if we can settle on that with the group, we can announce that tonight.
Right, so next week is obviously a non-meeting.
We're talking about this.
We didn't talk, but
Oh,
which is
okay.
what we're talking about now.
That's what I'm.
Choosing a date.
So Monday through Thursday of next week.
Monday I could do.
We talked today with Jack and Courtney and hatched the idea of a Facebook town hall with me on Monday. So that would mean Tuesday or Wednesday, or Tuesday and Wednesday of next week, 21st, 22nd, viable for anybody, and if not, the following Tuesday, the 28th.
I could do the 28th and out of town, 21st and 22nd.
I mean, it's going to be a Zoom meeting. What's your story, Mike?
Tuesday, Wednesday, next week, Tuesday of BRS.
Oh, right, it's back to
night.
school night of one kind or another, I think in both schools, both Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yeah.
So The week following is better, I think.
Okay.
Does Tuesday the 28th work for people?
Depends on when.
Well, what would be your parameters?
I mean, it's right after our meeting.
We have a meeting on
Our board
Monday.
meeting.
Right.
Yeah, we have.
But we were saying this is too long. to
I just think
attach
it needs
to a
its own focus. It may be short, it just depends,
I could do it at 7 probably.
okay? Does that work for folks?
Tuesday?
That's Tuesday, September 28th.
So,
It's-
just so I understand, so the reason not to have it a part of one of our regular meetings is that you think it's gonna be long, or?
Well, I just feel like, A, it could be long,
You need at least an hour.
and it's hard to carve out time in the context of a regular board meeting. And it's also harder to ask folks to sit through whatever else we have to do until we get to it, if we do it up front. So
So it's distinguished from a public hearing because we're not proposing.
it's not a public hearing,
Yeah.
it's just a public discussion. We'll lay out the issues and see what folks have to say. I know Pleasantville Strong wants an opportunity to present their material.
Okay, I guess, yeah, I guess I see it potentially another way where as having it be on the official agenda of a regular meeting gives it the attention that it may warrant. Whereas it like, if it's not part of a regular meeting, it's more like a.
What's your take on that, Eric? I mean, we don't know what we've got on the agenda for 2 weeks from now at the moment, but I mean, one option would be to say we're gonna do it at 7 PM instead of a regular work session
And just.
and let it run as it runs, figure it 7 to 8.
Yeah, as long as it replaces the work session, and it's like sometimes we're already
Right.
meeting to like 11, and I think.
No, yeah.
A few times we've gone to 12, that's just
I mean,
too much.
There's
No,
a
no,
risk
I
of
didn't mean-
that.
I didn't mean
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I just meant, why not make it a part of
No,
a
it's just,
regular meeting?
it's just a question if we have enough space to not have the meeting thing go on until, the
Right.
next day.
So I mean, making it a part of the work session agenda is limiting the conversation to an hour. Essentially, unless we're gonna take a hiatus, do the regular meeting
Yeah.
and jump back into it.
I don't have a sense of whether this is gonna be. I mean, I'm sure it's a controversial topic. How long do you think, Shane, the presentation that you guys want to do would be as in that context?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Peter, but Laura sent you kind of a rough already, right?
Well, she sent me a PowerPoint that was from the coalitions, the coalition of coalitions. I don't think it was on this subject. It was more on the legal logistics. You guys are going to be presenting material about why you believe what you believe, right? I mean, I would assume, and I don't want to cut anyone short, that Pleasantville Strong would want at least a half an hour. Is that
Correct. Yeah.
fair to say?
So what we're discussing is
The opt-out.
whether or not to opt out. That's what we're discussing.
Right.
We're
Okay.
asking for people to weigh in, right?
Yeah. I raised this before, I'll just mention it. I think if we hold a public discussion, we will get mostly one side of the argument,
Yeah.
which is fine,
I mean, I don't know how you
there's,
avoid that.
there's a fair amount of consensus. Well, I'm just wondering. if we
Eric and
should
I were
have-
laughing today.
we should have an email.
We'll set up an email. Marijuana.
Well, I don't know.
But I mean, yeah, I do think that, I know we keep setting all these emails up, but I think an email does at least.
I agree, we should. We've got to come up with something.
Different than
better-
marijuana.
Pleasantville.
So because I think, that, there's,
Opt out or no.
if there is some, it's easy to just say, I'm against the village of doing this and you should opt out. It's simple. However, if there's somebody who has a different point of view, I don't know if they're gonna come out on a public forum in any kind of way and say, hey, I'm for, maybe there
I
will.
mean, we should certainly do an email.
Yeah.
Recognize that's part of the public
Well,
record. It's
having done this
photoable,
once
so-
before, I'm
yeah,
pretty sure they
right.
wouldn't, but yeah.
So I don't,
Although with Zoom. you
I mean,
never know.
I would
You
say
put a mask
one
on.
option is to say, if we want to do it on Monday, it's 7 to 8, and we make clear there's a hard stop, and we're going to pick it up again, subject to there being a clear need to. People more
That's my
prefer
preference.
that.
If that can all work and get us out of here by 11, then I'm totally in agreement. My only concern would be if this is like the pool, that we went for a good hour and a half, and I don't think we were exhausted, but we did not necessarily exhaust everything everybody wanted to say at the end of it.
I do not expect an hour will be enough. We will have to pick it up and think.
Okay.
That is always the worst thing in the world there.
Yeah.
People's patience for these things.
So let's do an hour.
All right?
I
So
would be in
we can
agreement.
say Pleasantville Strong's presentation and then open forum responses. And then
Fine.
we'll take it up again.
7 PM, Monday the 27th. That's the plan. All right.
And
Now
then
we're
we can
gonna-
do that on Zoom.
Well, and
We're gonna
so-
end our
so
Zoom
having-
meeting. Yes.
Sorry, I apologize. Having said that, though, I really need to get work session time for Westchester Community College. They want to come in and do a presentation on seeing if we're explaining why approving potential scholarship money for job retraining as part of the rescue plan funds would be helpful. So I can get some in here in October, and I obviously won't be here on October 14th. So that's the only constraint.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Let's leave that Zoom meeting.